Most people spend years trying to understand everyone else, books, opinions, psychology, but rarely turn that same depth of attention inward. When you read yourself, it's less about labels and more about noticing patterns. What triggers you, what calms you, what you keep reaching for when things get quiet. In that sense, life can feel like it strips things away, not to punish you, but to make what's underneath easier to see. We spend our lives reading others, their stories, their minds, their books, searching everywhere for truth. But rarely do we sit still enough to read ourselves. My healing began when I became my own text, turning pages of memory, emotion, silence, learning what lives beneath my reactions. Titles fell away quietly: daughter, mother, friend, worker, achiever. Not because they were false, but because they were not the whole of me. And in that stripping down, something honest remained: just presence, just awareness, just me. Maybe this is life's deepest classroom. Maybe this is life's deepest classroom. Not what we accumulate, but what still stands when everything extra is gone. And faith in that place is no longer theory of performance, but what we truly lean on when there is nothing else to hold. One important grounding point: different spiritual traditions interpret tests differently. Some see hardship as a test of faith, others as consequence, growth, or simply the nature of life unfolding. What stays consistent across most perspectives is this: your response to what's taken or given often reveals more about you than the event itself. We read everyone else's pages, their stories, their wounds, their wisdom. But when do we open ourselves like scripture? But when do we open ourselves like scripture? When do we read us? When do we read us? Not the version we perform, not the version they name, not the version we pretend to maintain, but the raw text underneath it all. I became my own book when everything else was taken. Strip it back, title by title, roll by roll, mask by mask. Daughter gone, mother gone, friend gone, status gone, certainty gone. And what was left? Me, just me. No decoration, no validation, no applause. Just breath, just thought, just silence, learning how to speak. And I realized that is a real reading, that is a real studying, that is a real knowing. Because when life removes the noise, you finally hear the truth. And the truth doesn't shout, it reveals. And the truth doesn't shout, it reveals. It reveals what you cling to. It reveals what breaks you. It reveals what remains when everything is stripped away. And maybe that is the test: not what you gain, but what you cannot let go of. Not who stands beside you, but what stands inside you. Not who stands beside you, but what stands inside you. When everyone and everything steps back, so I ask myself again, so I ask myself again, what am I made of when nothing is left to hold? What am I made of when nothing is left to hold? And in that silence, in that emptiness, in that undoing, I'm learning how to read myself again and again and again. I am not here to outshine others, not here to be better, louder, higher. I'm here to understand what lives beneath the names I have carried: daughter, friend, worker, dreamer, survivor. All of them real, but none of them the root of me. So I began to read myself like a quiet page turning in the dark, slow, honest, unafraid of what might be written there. And I found something simple: not perfection, not arrival, not superiority, but presence. A self that breathes even when it is unseen, a heart that still beats even when it is unheard, a spirit that remains after every label has fallen away. And I do not rise to be above anyone, I rise to be true. I rise without comparison. I rise without conquest. I rise without needing to win. Because what is the point of standing tall if it cost me my soul? So I return to gratitude, not escape, but as understanding for what I have lost, for what I have learned, for what still remains when everything else has changed. And in that gratitude, I find my foundation, not who I was told to be, not who I try to prove myself as, but who I am underneath it all: quiet, whole, becoming, still rising. Sometimes you don't build life from the top down, you build it from the ashes upward, hammer in the hand, not to destroy, but to build what once broke you. Ground zero, no map, no certainty, just the echo of everything you survived. And I realized it was never luck that carried me, it was endurance. It was standing back up after every fall tried to teach me to stay down. I was my own foundation before I even knew my strength. So I take what broke me and I turn it into brick. I take what tested me and I turn it into stone, not to become harder than life, but to become steady within it, because I have stood the test again and again when no one saw it, when nothing felt certain, when everything asked me to give up, and still I remained. So if I rebuild with truth. If I rise from honesty. If I stand on everything I survived, not above others, not against others, but rooted in the fact that I made it through.